Hello again, this is Alex Chavez with NS Corporation bringing to you another helpful how-to video. In this video we'll be discussing our transit wrap brush retract system. As you can see up here, we're on the very top of a 12-foot clearance machine. We're up high, and you have your driver's side arm, your passenger side arm. The driver's side arm is shorter. This shorter arm is the one that's going to make contact with the vehicle as the vehicle passes through here. That's the first brush to make contact, and that's the brush that controls the air retract. The air retract, when this arm opens and it's perpendicular to the bulkhead itself, it's going to trigger this limit switch and make the arms open up. The reason for the air retract is not only if you want to use it as a drive-through bay under no operation, right, where you have it retracted so you could use it as a drive-through bay, open bay. But what it's mainly for is to clear around bus mirrors, right? So what we want to do is we want to get contact of that first brush on the front of the vehicle. So we clean that windshield, the front of the vehicle, and as we go perpendicular to this bulkhead, or in other words, this arm is parallel to the bus and the curb rails, this limit switch will trigger. So as the brush is opening, this plate is going to make contact with this wheel, right? And then the air retract system is going to come out and push the arms the rest of the way. The reason for that is what we want is for the machine to, as we're cleaning the front, we want to throw the brush out a little bit to clear around that mirror, right? We don't want to grab the mirror. We don't want to put full force of the brush weight on the mirror itself. So we want to clear around that mirror. So adjusting this limit switch, this is one of the key components to that air retract. So you want to make sure that this, you know, when you click on it, see that? It activated the system just fine. Now for adjustment, like I said, you want to adjust it so when the arm comes out perpendicular to the bulkhead, straight out of the bearings, you want to make sure that when this plate gets here, it triggers that. You can do it two ways. You can, on the newer systems, you can loosen off these bolts right here, these two bolts, and through those slots you can adjust this limit switch plate all the way back. On the older systems, the adjustment is not here, it's actually on the screws that hold the switch itself to the bracket. So you have to loosen up the 1024 screws to adjust those in and out. This is a little bit simpler on the new bracket because you have larger bolts. You don't have to contend with the smaller screws. And these are threaded to the top of the bulkhead. So again, it's just adjusting so that you get the right pitch of that arm and trigger that switch, right? So that's going to help us clear around the mirrors with very minimal weight. This system is also connected to a timer. That timer, when you trigger this, that timer can be set at 2 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds if you'd like. That's how much time we're going to hold this open. Typically, we only need about 2-3 seconds. We're going to swing out, the bus is continually moving, and then we're going to swing right back in past the mirrors and start cleaning the side of the vehicle. So, one of the things to check for is to make sure that this actuates, right? You want to check the condition of the switch, make sure that the switch is not corroded. You know, these things could be out there for 20 years, right? Not corroded, it's working right, all the hardware is nice and tight, clean, accessible. Now, one of the things when you get a new limit switch, this is the arm, the roller cam, this is going to come disassembled. So you're going to have to set it at the proper angle that it matches that plate. Notice that it's not really touching the plate there, right? It's offset because we're waiting for that arm to get to this position and then that'll trigger it. So now we're going to move on to the air cylinders. The air cylinders are what pushes the arm out. So when this gets triggered, you'll see these air cylinders are going to go and hit that arm, push it the rest of the way out. Now this is going to time out because it's on a timer. But one of the things you want to look for on these guys is make sure that this bullet shaped. This is a high molecular plastic, UHMW. It's very durable, but it can wear out. So you might want to change these every so often. You know, you can unscrew this nut. Everything's loose right now for demonstration purposes, but you can take this thing off, thread it back on, a new one, put that back in. All the other thing you want to listen for in this system right here as it's running, we can hear the brushes spinning, but we don't hear any air leaks. So you want to inspect all your lines. You know, that could be on a monthly basis. Inspect all the lines. come up here and listen for these cylinders. Make sure there's no leaks in the front seal or rear seal of the cylinder where it might need replacement. Now to get this cylinder out, you take these nuts off, right? Both of these nuts, there's a drum nut there. Take these two nuts off. With the arm in the open position, this thing will slide right out, the whole thing. If you need to, you can take these 4 bolts out and disassemble it, take it down to a workbench, and you can repair it there. Now, we always recommend for you to have an extra cylinder just in case, you know. You don't want to be waiting a couple days to get a cylinder in. It's good to have one in stock. The driver and passenger, both sides are the same air cylinder. This air cylinder is the same one used on the 3000 series machine and the 5000 series machine. So again, these are just quick connect polyflow fittings. Inspect your lines, inspect for any leaks. And we're going to move now to the air panel, because these air cylinders are direct feed from an air panel that has flow controls. Those flow controls are so you can adjust the rate of speed at which that cylinder goes in and out, okay? So what we don't want is, we don't want to have 80 PSI with an wide open port that this thing's going to be slamming and hitting this plate really hard. Notice how when it comes out, it gradually gets to it, right? There, and then starts to push. It's not a hard slam. Okay, so now we're going to move down to the air panel. Let's continue this 12 feet below. Continuing with our air retract system for transit machines. Again, 3000, 5000 series machines. You see we were up there adjusting the limit switch, was located right next to the arm. Now we're down at the air panel. This air panel can be leg mounted or wall mounted. We recommend to keep it as close as possible. That way, for one, is for adjustments. If you need to make adjustments, you can see the brushes right here. Number 2 is the flow controls for controlling air, compressed air, right? In this air panel, you notice that there's a schematic right here that tells you where everything goes. And there's 2 flow controls right here. These are the 2 flow controls that are controlling the speed of that air cylinder going in and out. We have the main regulator set at 70 PSI. And if we were to open these valves all the way or close them all the way, the cylinder won't move. So these valves can be turned to adjust the speed, and then it has a nut you can lock it into place so nobody messes with it, right? Once you lock that guy in there, this guy's tight, won't move. So this is our newer panels. These are all Parker Hannafin components. This panel has a air separator. It's like a miniature dryer. What it's doing is taking that air and spinning it around and taking that water sediment and settling here at the bottom. It has a float so that it'll automatically drain. When this fills, it'll pop that open and it'll drain to atmosphere, or we suggest is to put this line down to the conveyor pit so you don't get this burst of air right here and water. This also, the regulator has also an auto drain. The water level here is going to start to go up as it picks it up from the system. If anything gets past this guy, it goes into this guy. Here's your direction of flow. When this starts to fill, eventually that also has a float that'll pop open and drain out that regulator. Now, these are things that we put in extra to complement our systems to keep them running correctly. But it all depends on your air quality. If you don't drain your air compressors, if you don't maintain them, this guy cannot keep up with 100% of all your lines having water in them, okay? So it's critical that you maintain your air compressor, your air lines. Make sure that there's no excess water coming to this point, you know, drain your compressors, things like that. You want to look for, also on your lines, make sure there's no corrosion. Some older locations might be using old galvanized pipe, which can release, you know, metal particles into the system. So this bowl, if we disconnect the air here, but before we get to that point, we'll show you how these come apart, okay? But here's the flow, goes into a solenoid valve. That solenoid valve is being triggered by that switch. If we go here to we're in auto right now, which means that the brush needs to open for that to trigger. We're gonna go to hand, and you'll see, turn this pressure back up to 70 where we were. It'll push the arms out. You see our chains are extended. right? It'll stay there until we release the hand position. Right, the arms go back in. So that is our pneumatic air panel. All these valves also have a manual override. If you want to manual override it, see this little button right here? You can press that, and that'll manually operate the valve. It's a pilot operated assist. Here's the timer we discussed about how long those arms stay open. Right now it's set at 4 seconds, so that when we go to auto mode, if we trigger that arm by making it go parallel to the bus line and the curb rail, it'll trigger it. Let's trigger it with hand right now to show. But then once that triggers, it's going to count down 4 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then release. So you can set this at 2 seconds. You can set it at 6, 8, up to 12 seconds. Typically, the magic number is somewhere around between 2 and 4 seconds. Because all we want is the bump to go around those mirrors, come back in. We don't displace the mirrors from their location. You know, we don't put a lot of contact pressure on them, and then we come back right behind that mirror and start cleaning again. So, let me take the air off of this thing. Carlos, would you disconnect the air, please? So we're going to disconnect the air. And now that we have no air, here's your schematic. You know, that gives you all the wiring and the pneumatic flows, right? So now for maintenance, what we want to do is we want to check these guys and make sure that there's no air pressure here. Yeah, no air pressure, it's all gone. So this bowl right here, you see this bowl? It creates a cyclonic spin on that pneumatic air, and then the clean air goes to the other side, but then the remaining water drops down into this bowl. So you want to check it, make sure it's clean, no debris, no anything like that, because that's coming from your lines, if there is anything there. So we want to put this back in, and it screws right back in there. And lock position, there it is locked. Same thing with your auto drain here. This one is just a little bit of a quarter turn, pull it down, and as you can see, there's the float in there. Want to make sure it's nice and clean. This requires no oil. Okay, so what we want to do is put it back in, right around there, then turn it to the arrow, it's locked in place. So again, if you have any questions, give us a call. Reach us at nswash.com. Thank you and have a great day.